just when you're ready. Okay.
Hi, my name is Brogan Paul. I'm the service coordinator for the Youth and School Service in West Yorkshire with the project called Challenging.
It's called Changing Lives.
Changing Lives, right.
Okay, just whenever you're ready.
Hi, my name is Brogan Paul. I'm the service coordinator for Youth and Schools with the Red Cross. I work all across the Yorkshire area. And I'm currently involved with the Changing Lives project through Kala Sangam, and I've been doing some session on knife crime and the first aid that goes along with that, teaching the young people about how to
It's okay. It's okay.
how to react or how to administer first aid when somebody's bleeding quite heavily, or just know what to do and know what to do to an ambulance, and what to say once they phone an ambulance, and just kind of raising awareness all around the issue of knife crime and conflict.
Jay.
Lorraine.
Paige.
That's you.
Silent.
Pardon. Alex. Like Mark said today, I'm here today to talk to you about my son and what happened to me on 5 years ago, on the 22nd of April. It did happen 5 years ago, but it feels like yesterday still what happened to me. I'm a normal mum. I come from a normal community. I lived in Beeston all my life. I don't know if anybody's heard of Beeston. Yeah. I've lived there all my life. I've got 2 children, one's Tyrone and one's Shannon. She was 4, Tyrone was 16. My son was 6'4". He was of mixed race. His father Jamaican and English, white. Tyrone grew up there all his life. And Thursday, the 22nd of April, was a normal day for me. Tyrone had got up in the morning, said he were going out. I said, okay, see you later. You know, off Tyrone goes. I'm as a mother, and I'm just pottering about the house, doing whatever. Went shopping, come back. About 4:30, I seen my son at the local shop. And he was starving, and he said, are you doing the tea, Mum? I said, yeah, I'm going to cook dinner for you, be home in half an hour. He said, I will. He asked me for some money. I didn't have any on me because I didn't get paid well next day. I always feel bad about that because I couldn't even give him £1. I goes home with my daughter, and I was cooking his dinner, and I get a phone call at 5:10. I've just seen him at 4:30. Laughing, joking, full of himself. And I get a phone call saying that Tyrone had been stabbed. Well, with that, I screamed. I screamed down the phone, get an ambulance, that's all I said. I grabbed my little girl, she was watching Tweenies on the TV, she had nothing on her feet. Grabbed my daughter, I probably grabbed her like I grabbed her. I've run out the door and I've got into my car, flung my daughter in the car. I didn't know where I was going, I didn't have a clue. All I knew is Tyrone had been stabbed. Anyway, as I was driving down the road a little bit, there were buses, there were traffic, there were helicopters, there were people everywhere. And I had to leave my car at middle of the road, and I seen my friend running, and she's quite a biggish lady, I could tell she was out of breath. And she said, he's been stabbed. And I'm saying, where is he? And she couldn't even speak, she was out of breath, she's pointing in the direction. So I jump back in the car, and cars are moving out of the way because everybody knows me in my area. So I'm driving, and I get to this place called Brett Gardens, which is 2 minutes from where I lived. Big open space, houses round about it. And my son was laid out on the floor. My son was 6'4". He was a big lad. And there was ambulance people, there were police everywhere, there were people crying, there were girls crying, there were big boys crying. men crying, everybody was crying. I've run to get my son, because he's my son, he's my child. And I was held back by the police. And I collapsed. I was screaming. I must have collapsed for I don't know how long, but I actually wet myself. My body just come away from me, and I collapsed on the floor. I weren't allowed to go to Tyrone, because I didn't know at this time that they was trying to save his life. I didn't know how serious. I didn't know what had happened. All I knew was Tyrone was hurt. Yet as a mother, I couldn't go to him. I couldn't even hold him, go near him or anything. They then put me in a police vehicle. Then I'm sort of like, I'm in shock, and I want to get to my son. I know my son's hurt on the floor. With that, the ambulance people then rushed him into an ambulance, and the ambulance took off. My sister grabbed me out of the police car, and we went through every red light going to the hospital. But on the way to the hospital, I felt that. And I screamed in my sister's car. I said, "Matt, he's dead, he's dead." And I didn't know why I had that feeling. Got to the hospital, there were hundreds of people there. There were police, there were all my community there. There were his friends, they were all crying. Everybody's in corridors, and I'm screaming, "Where's my son, where's my son?" When I've got to the hospital, because I didn't know how bad this was. I didn't know this was a murder, I didn't know anything. You know, I'm a normal mother cooking his tea at home. So I've got in anyway, they put me in this room. And this doctor, and I'm pacing up and down in this room, I'm saying, "I want my son, I want my Tyrone, I want my Ty." And this doctor came to me, and he said, "I'm really sorry." And I remember I grabbed him. He said, "But we might not be able to save your son." And I looked at him, and I said, "You get in there, you save my child, he's all I've got. Please, I beg you, please save him." And with that he goes. And next thing, my sister-in-law came in the room, and she looked at me. She said, "He's dead." I screamed. I fell to the floor. I said, "No, he's not dead. He's not dead." "You're lying," I'm screaming in this room. Everybody outside is screaming, his friends crying, everybody's hitting the walls, punching things, everything, and I'm in this, you know, I didn't know what was happening. I'm thinking, this is a bad dream, this is a nightmare, because this, let me tell you, is a nightmare. This is your worst nightmare. Then I was led into the theatre where my Tyrone was laid on a trolley. And when I tell you blood, I have never seen so much blood in all my life. My son's eyes were still open, but he was dead. He was gone. The doctors were crying, the nurses were crying. People had their heads down. I was held back still. I went to hold my baby. As much as he's 16, he's 6'5", still my baby. I weren't allowed. I was held back. I was screaming. I was then put into another room, and I was stripped of all my clothing, and I'm in shock. I never spoke another word to anybody. I sat in a corner and I rocked because I was in shock. I smoked very heavy. People putting cigarettes in me, and I didn't even smoke a cigarette because I couldn't talk, I couldn't do anything. I was stripped of all my clothing because at that time it was a murder investigation. On that day, Tyrone had gone out, and like any normal, and he was out with his friends, but not all of his friends were there that day. He had a 9-year-old boy with him that day, and his girlfriend, and her friend, and another lad, one of his friends. And what had happened a week before, Tyrone had a fight with one of them because they tried to tax Tyrone's friend in the street, tried to take his bracelet or something, and he was on the phone to Tyrone saying, "I've got 3 guys chasing me, they want to tax me." got to where he is. Tyrone's friend couldn't have a bit of a do, and Tyrone didn't like bullies. So Tyrone said, I'll fight you, but there's no way you're taking my friend's things. They're my friend's things, man, you ain't taking them. You want to fight, fight me. So Tyrone fought this guy, and he beat him in a square fight on the streets in Beeston. But it didn't end there. It did not end there, because a week later, my son was going to a school to pick his friend up, one of his girlfriend's sister from school, and 4 of them came in to fight him, and he fought them, all 4, and he beat them with his hands. And one of them said, there's a contract out on you, excuse me, you nigger, you're a dead man. That's what they said to my son. That was on the Tuesday, and on the Thursday, my son was dead. Because what they did was, they rounded up everybody. Tyrone was attacked by 30 that day. He was beaten with every weapon going. He was CS gassed, and he was stabbed 3 times, all from behind. A 9-centimetre blade went from his back in here. You've all heard of your aorta. That went straight through from here to here. Pierced his aorta. He had a stab wound here. I don't know if you've had the weapons awareness, but when anybody's coming at you with any kind of knife or anything, your instinct is to do that. And that's exactly what Tyrone did. And he had a cut right across there. His head was bashed in. He had a black eye. Apparently when they first come for him, the 5 of them came in first. They fought them, but then they all came from different directions, and they all had weapons. Every weapon you name they had. When the police turned up to where Tyrone was laid, they were still beating him with baseball bats, cricket bats, metal poles, and his body were lifting off the ground, because all that come out in court. My son. Tyrone really died at Brett Gardens, but they did try the ambulance, and like I say, they took him to the hospital. So this going back to the hospital now, where I got the phone call and I'm at the hospital. At this point I didn't know this was a murder investigation, because I wasn't functioning, because I couldn't function. I did find out then, I knew it was a murder investigation. By the time I got home I was sedated, I was on a lot of medication. My home wasn't my home anymore. My home belonged to the media, the police, and everybody who lived in my community. I was very, very ill. I wanted to die. I didn't want to live anymore. I didn't eat. I needed tablets to make me go to sleep. I lost 3.5 stone within a week and a half. And I drank, and I drank, and I drank, because I did not want to think, because I was living in my worst nightmare. This was a dream, what I thought was a dream. My community cut in half. And when I say cut in half, there was a lot of trouble. There were riots in Beeston, because a lot of his friends weren't there that day. They all said that if they'd have been there, he wouldn't have died. But this all stems from who could fight who. Because Tyrone could have a go. He never used weapons. He was sticking up for his friend, and this is where it stemmed from. So his friend wasn't going to be bullied. And this is where they ganged him up. That were in 2004 April. In 2005, there were a 5.5-week court case. 4 were convicted. My family's been torn apart. It's been a nightmare. Do you understand what I'm trying to say to you all? Does anybody want to ask me anything?
Gobsmacked,
Hey,
Gobsmacked, mate.
you gobsmacked?
I knew based on what funny think of that one.
Yeah. And it's so bad now, because I mean, as much as it in papers all now, try and keep everything friends weren't there. A lot of his friends now are in prison. One of his friends, an alcoholic, because he couldn't cope with it. And every time he drinks, he goes out onto Beeston streets and he smashes up cars. And he attacks with it here. Another one of Tyrone's friends is serving 5 years in Her Majesty's prison. Because he said every year on Tyrone's birthday, he will take out one of theirs who killed my son. He will stab him to death. And one year on Tyrone's birthday, was it 3 years ago? He's been locked up 3 years now. He went out and he did just that. He took a knife and he went and he got a certain person and he stabbed them.
Was it like one half of Beeston's like
Yeah.
one side?
Yeah.
It's like a rivalry, yeah.
Well, it is, it's rivalry, yeah. But I'm going to be honest with you guys, I had a lot of hate and anger. And I did. Because he was my child. I hated every one of them. Every single one of them. I hated all the families. And I wanted revenge. I'll be honest, I wanted revenge. I wanted them to die. Because they took my son, they took the most important person in my life away from me. And all I have is my son's grave, which I go to. And I can't go there regular because it kills me. It's painful. And people say it was 5 years ago, oh, you know, you should be getting on with your life. How do you get on with your life when you've lost so much? My son were my world, he were my rock, yeah, we argued. Do you know what I mean? Of course I argued with him. You know, and he used to torment me to death. I'd ground him, he'd say, I'm grounded, muffin, you know what I mean? And off out the door he'd go and I'd be shouting and bawling, get back in here. We'd have this fights, we'd have this arguments, just like your parents do with you. I used to get on his nerves, you know, and he'd say, you do him like that. I'm too big, and I'd so more with him. Because I would have a go with him, you know, and I'd say, you're grounded, you can't ground me. I said, well, she's grounded, you know, and I'd wrestle with him. Because I want an easy mum, I want no pushover. Because I brought my son up on my own, so I had to be tough. But I loved him with all my heart.
Do you think the good memories have helped you go through it?
Yes. And I also think as well, doing the work that I do now with you young people, because I have bullshitting none of you guys. What I'm telling you is what happened to me and my family. I'm not going to stand here and lie and paint a picture. As much as Tyrone had Asian friends, they all had to. They had, like, people wanted to hurt them too afterwards. Other Asians wanted to hurt Tyrone's friends and said they were going to take him out because they called him a traitor, even though he was Asian. So then he now walks around Beeston with one of them dogs, yeah, one of them, yeah. And he won't go nowhere without his dog, because he never knows when something's going to happen to him. It's just so... You know, when he was there. And when I had him, when I grew him, you know, and he brought me a lot of joy. He brought me a lot of joy. Don't get me wrong, we had his arguments, we had his ups and downs, we'd fight, we'd carry on, you know, and smoke that garage till, you know what I mean, he'd be stinking, he'd be coming in and, you know.
Who's that lady?
You what, that's me.
Oh, it's spread right across
It's
Leeds.
spread right across Leeds. Everybody knows Tyrone.
Wow.
This was like 3 weeks. We was on holiday 3 weeks before he was killed. I took him away with me. He was getting the champagne bottle. I said, no, leave it. That's the day after. That's me when I buried Tyrone.
Okay, and whenever you're ready. So, do we want to ask Lorraine to introduce herself? Yeah. Okay, so if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself to the camera.
Hi, my name's Lorraine Fraiser. I'm the mother of Tyrone Clark. My son Tyrone was stabbed and beaten to death in April 2004 in Beeston in Leeds.
What would your advice be to everybody around out in?
What would your advice be to everybody that is involved in like gangs and crime?
Well, firstly, my advice to them would be not to be involved and to think about the actions that could occur. Being in a gang, anything can go at any time. I think the advice I would give to a young person is not to carry a weapon, not to get involved in a gang at all, because that person eventually, if he's carrying a knife, could die by that knife, or he could kill somebody else. And he's not really thinking that at the time, he's just thinking he's carrying it because it's a fashion or he needs it or anything. You don't need to carry a knife, because the impact that could come through him carrying that knife, he could lose his life or her life, and the life of the person that, if they get into a fight or anything like that, and that person dies, he's then on a murder charge. And then there's the family of that person, there's his family as well, you know, and although he may not have thought that he wanted to kill somebody, but you can cut somebody with a knife, any part of a vein, and you can bleed to death and die, and that then would be a murder charge. I'd advise them to think about what they're going to do, and advise anybody to put down, do not carry a knife at all. Nobody needs to be carrying knives on the streets of this country. Nobody.
In Tyrone's case, do you feel that Tyrone stabbing was just involved with your family, or do you feel it was on a broader scale?
Yeah, it was. The whole community came to its knees that day. Friends, family, people that didn't even know Tyrone as well. Everybody, there was heartbroken. I mean, we've never had anything like that in Beeston. I mean, it's something you see on the TV. And when I say it affected the young people, the old, passerbyers, people that didn't even know Tyrone that lived in Beeston, because Beeston is a very large community, and it did affect a lot of people, even the police. It affected the doctors and nurses that treated Tyrone, even the jury, when it went to court, they were crying. You know, Tyrone's death affected so many people, as well as Tyrone's mum and my family. I can't even begin to tell you how it affected me and how it still does. But the community and people round about, it affected everybody terribly, from young people. I mean, the young people even today call Tyrone's name, and they go, "Oh, do you remember Tyrone?" But Tyrone was stabbed to death. And this is young kids that were 4 and 3 and 2 years old, who are now like it's 5 years on, and they all still talk about Tyrone in a good way. But then there's also the black side of what happened to Tyrone, and that's what people remember, and there's a lot of pain there with people. So when somebody's life's taken, no matter where they come from, that person has friends, they have family, they have someone that loves them. And that love, i.e. whether it be friends, family, girlfriends, grandparents, everybody suffers. Everybody suffers. And today, like I say, Tyrone's friends, a lot of them, they're locked up now. And I believe it's through what happened to Tyrone, because that was the biggest thing that could ever happen. You know, we'd not had anything like that in Leeds or Yorkshire or up north, you know. I mean, to be attacked by 30 people and beaten and stabbed to death in a community where you've lived all your life, and one of them used to go to school with Tyrone. You know, it had a very bad impact on my community, very bad, and it still has. You know, there's like a black cloud now over Beeston, and you feel the presence when you go into it, because I feel that presence too.
How has Tyrone's case benefited Great Britain today?
Well, I think with Tyrone's case, because nobody could prove who actually stabbed Tyrone, and Tyrone was stabbed 3 times, all from behind, and one of the knives pierced his aorta. But 4 people were brought to justice out of 30 that attacked him that day, and not one of them would say who done what. Therefore, they all pleaded not guilty. But they were found guilty by 12 jurors, and in Leeds Crown Court by a top judge who only deals in murders. They appealed, and it went to the Royal Courts of Justice, and then it went backwards and forwards to London for 4 years, and then eventually it went to the House of Parliament, and the convictions were safe. 5 law lords looked at it, and it took weeks for that to be decided. And we have now what we call joint enterprise, which they were convicted on joint enterprise. Although we've always had joint enterprise, it's an ancient law, but it's never been secured. But through what happened to Tyrone, the law, we've actually been the police now, and the courts are able now to secure that law. So people will be convicted on the grounds of joint enterprise.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bringing out of my house. Because I think close friends and family and the community, they wanted to do as much as they could for me. But I wasn't really able to speak with them because I was in shock and I was on a lot of medication, and I'd just be sat there really, and people had been doing everything for me. You know, I didn't get a wash, I didn't do anything unless somebody washed me, because I couldn't, because I was very ill. I was on a lot of medication and I couldn't function. I wanted to die myself, I didn't care. So I had that many people around me, like people looking after my daughter, people looking after my home, and everybody came, people making teas and coffees for people. There were a lot of police in and out of my house. The media tried to get in my house. There was all that were parked outside my house with cameras, because I never came out of the house, you see, because I weren't in a fit state. I couldn't function. So I didn't really talk with anybody. I think my family and having Tyrone's friends around me, that I wanted them around me as well, because it were a part of him, I suppose, in a way. You know, and then it was very painful, as much as I didn't really talk much. But I wanted him there, but I didn't. You know, it was hard, because I couldn't actually speak a lot because I was drugged up. I was on a lot of medication, you know, and I didn't wash myself. That I was, you know, family members washed me. I didn't function, I didn't eat, I didn't do anything. I just sat. And I stayed in Tyrone's room a lot of the time, in his bed. I slept in his bed, and I just stayed there. So the community was very good though. They all came in and they gave cards, flowers, and they'd bring food they'd cook food and bring it down, and you know, everyone were there, and they were all very helpful. Everybody, you know, wanted to do what they could, you know, for me and my family.
So how did your little girl take it when all these people coming to your house? Did she know exactly what was going on?
No, I don't think she did actually, because she was only 4. She'd only just turned 4 as well. She knew Tyrone had been killed, but I think a 4-year-old's mind isn't really focused on like how we'd focus on it and how we'd see it, because you know, people kept telling Shannon that he's in heaven now and he's with the angels, and you know, he's looking down on you, and as a mind of a 4-year-old, but it'd be all right in heaven, won't he, and he's with the angels, isn't he, mummy, and you know, and I didn't really look after my daughter as well, if I'm honest, because I weren't in a fit state to look after my daughter. Everybody else had her and looked after her. So really, Shannon lost her mum as well as her brother for quite a long time, because I weren't able to be a mum to my daughter because I'd lost Tyrone, and all I had inside of me was I lost my son in here. But in a way, I always thought Tyrone was going to walk back through the door, and I thought all these people were lying, but I couldn't speak out because I was on a lot of medication what the doctor had put me on, you know, so very difficult because I didn't communicate with my daughter at that time.
Good. Well
What?
done.
Questions?
You got one question,
That's all right.
Carl? No?
That's all right.
Yeah? Okay. Yeah, you sure? Okay. Thank you. It's okay, don't worry, just try not to, just stand a bit from the camera. Ask your question.
What effect has it had you from Tyrone's death?
What the effect of losing Tyrone to me as a mother, it's had a big effect on me, and it will do to the day I die. I miss him terribly. It's made me view life differently, and I see things differently now. But I tried to celebrate Tyrone's life because he had a beautiful life, and I had him for 16 years, and I thank God that I was given that chance to have Tyrone for 16 years because I had the best years going with my son. But through Tyrone's death, I have now set up Tyrone's Memorial Project, and I work a lot around gun and knife crime. I go into schools, colleges, wherever I'm needed, and I talk to young people about the consequences of carrying guns and knives and violence. And I hope that, you know, that I do get through to them, because I am a real person and this did happen to me. I'll never stop loving Tyrone. I love him more than I ever could. He's my child. And what I do for him and his memory, so I keep him going. Because what happened to Tyrone should never happen to anybody else.
How has it left you emotionally?
It's left me very emotionally. My heart's broke, I'll be honest. But I carry on. I have another little girl and I have to carry on for her. And I carry on the work with the young people today because I care what happens to the young people. Because I don't want another mother sat where I'm sat. And that's important. And I always think, you know, if I can change 1 out of 10, then I feel like Tyrone hasn't died in vain. You know, the work that I'm doing, I don't know, it's like talking to you guys. I just hope that you do take it on board, because it has happened to me, and I grieve every day still, and I will grieve to the day I die. My heart is broke, and it can never be repaired.
And thank you very much. Can you tell us more about the campaigns you're doing?
Well, I've done quite a lot over the years. I've done a lot of media work. I've been on Jeremy Cow's show, I've been on Trisha, I've worked with Panorama, I've done with all the news teams in Leeds and in London. I've got an office, and it's in my house, and in there I have everybody up on the walls, people that have been murdered, because I call it their room, and it's where I go in. I can lock my door in there, and I can get on with the important things that I need to be getting on with around gun and knife crime. I do quite a bit, and I do campaign. I'm against guns and knives, and I will voice my opinion with that and about that. If there's anything going, I go to it. I go to marches. I do what I can and where I can. And Tyrone's Memorial Project will continue.
Thank you very much. Okay.